What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And this one I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the overall markets. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Webull link. If you deposit any amount of money, you're guaranteed 12 free stocks. If you deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 in total. Deposit $2,000 more, and you're guaranteed 40. Conference in 2 weeks. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the markets. As of right now, during the pre-market session, the market's holding up very nicely, and I do think we could be retesting all-time highs. However, I would recommend being very careful the higher we go because there is a slight bearish divergence here, and we have a lot of data coming out that could affect whether or not this pump continues. Now, as predicted, the market is pushing towards all-time highs. We did predict this yesterday, and we did see a lot of stocks like Tesla push during the pre-market, but be a little bit careful because of this data right here. Now, today is Monday, December 2nd, 2024. At 9:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 15 minutes after the market opens, we have the S&P Global Manufacturing PMI report coming out. So look for some volatility then. And then at 10 o'clock a.m., we have the ISM manufacturing numbers coming out for employment, new orders, and prices. This is going to lead to some high volatility. We'll see what happens at 10 a.m. Will the market get a rug pull? Will the market pump more? Be very, very careful, guys, because this data will cause some high volatility. And whatever the move is, it could just be very temporary if we get a temporary dump or a temporary pump. So wait for some high volatility at 10 o'clock a.m., 30 minutes after the stock market opens. I'm just here to give you guys a warning about that. Now, in terms of earnings, just know there's not really much coming out for today. Very minor earnings for Monday. For Tuesday, we have Salesforce and a couple of banks coming out, and everything becomes more serious with retail on Wednesday and Thursday. But for today, there's not really much coming out. I also want to mention that right now, there's not really anything significant in the news that I'm seeing. So far, the market is continuing to hold up near all-time highs, and there's no sign of that stopping, at least quite yet. Besides that, I've been looking through the news. I didn't see anything that was too crazy, so I'm not going to talk too much about that. Now I'm just going to focus on what the charts have to offer. So, with that being said, guys, what do we see at least from the charts from here on out? I think that SPY is looking bullish overall, but we have to be careful with the data release. So, when you look at the 30 minutes time frame, we look bullish. I do expect this to kind of push higher back up for the 603 target. I think SPY will be approaching that. But just know that 603 is going to be a tough resistance. If we break 603, we have 604 and 605 as resistance and 607. I presume what's going to happen is we push a little bit higher, then we'll have to see what kind of reaction we get at open. If we reject it at open and lose 602 flat, we're looking for this to potentially dip closer to 600 flat all the way down here. And if 600 fails us, we're looking for essentially 598. So I think what's going to happen is we push upon open, but then we have to, excuse me, we have to watch what kind of reaction we get at 10 o'clock a.m., whether it's a little bit of a push and a rejection, or if we just straight up push from here. Be careful with the manufacturing numbers at 10 a.m. There is a possibility we do dip a bit back down to 600, if not 598. We'll have to see about that just to be safe. Watch the tough resistance at 603, then we'll see how it goes from here. As far as ES goes, we're trying to pump right now, at least for the time being, but just know this. We could push closer to all-time highs. We're very close to them at 6,050. We're only about 10 points away, so it's not too far away from that. And this might attempt to go a little higher, but be careful between 6,050 and 6,060. If we break that resistance, we're looking for a much larger pump all the way up towards 6,080. And if we come short, if we hit this range right here, there's always that possibility we reject and make our way back down for 6,030. So I think what's going to happen is we kind of push a little bit higher, but then we'll have to see what kind of reaction we get because there's going to be a risk of this coming back down for 6,030. In my opinion, with this nice uptrend that's being respected, we could push a little bit higher for 6,050 to 6,060. Then we'll see if we get a rejection and move back down, depending on our manufacturing numbers. So please keep that in mind, guys. We'll have to see how it goes. As far as Tesla goes, we have a very, very nice looking resistance at this 360 area. We hit this, rejected, hit this, rejected. Now we're hitting this again. 362 is where this resistance happens to be. If this rejects here, we could be dipping lower. I personally think that what could be happening to Tesla is we push upon open, then we come back down to fill this gap. There's a gap to fill back down towards 345. So we might see Tesla dip a little bit to fill that before it tries to bounce again. So be careful. Although there is a cup and handle like structure, there could be a small dip coming before it tries to bounce again. So make sure you watch these levels closely and just know that this gap might get filled. Now, this also depends on the data. So look for volatility at 10 a.m. and we'll see what happens with that gap fill. For other factors out there, we happen to have Nvda, which looks a little bit more bullish here. As long as we're above 138, we're looking for essentially 140 as our target. It could attempt to get there, and tech does look a little bit stronger. As long as we don't lose 135.9, we're going to likely continue to go higher. Might be a dip before it tries to push for 140. As long as 138 does not break, 140 could be a nice potential target. For Bitcoin has a nice trend right over here. We're going to be looking for a test of about 96,000 or just under that. So we'll have to see what kind of reaction we get from here. There's a possible head and shoulders forming here. So I'm a little bit more careful now. We did hit my 98,000 target from yesterday only to come back down. So look for a test of 96,000 or so. And we'll see if Bitcoin rejects. If we can't hold above 96,368, this is going to reject and start tipping closer to about 94,000. If we break that, we could push higher. But just be careful. Look for a small push in Bitcoin and we'll see what kind of reaction we get. For NQ, we look more bullish. We're looking for a test of 21,100. I do expect a little bit more upside, if not above that. If we lose 20,884, we turn back down, but this is favoring upside for now. So look for a push for 21,100, and we'll see if we reject or not. For the QQQ, as long as we do not lose 510, we're looking for a push for 512. But just know this, between 512 and 515, we have rejected a lot in the past. So look for a little bit more upside on the triple Q. And if we get that rejection between 512 and 515, the 512s could come, and then we could reject to make a move back down to 507. So keep that in mind, guys. We could push a bit to only reject and dip back down. So give this some time to develop. For Apple's on a very, very nice uptrend. We have 238 as our main resistance. If we break past 238, we're looking for essentially 240. And if we end up not breaking past this, we're looking for a dip back down for 235. So we could be dipping back down for 235, and we'll have to see what kind of reaction we get from here. And I think that it's going to be very important to watch these levels very, very nicely. But in my personal opinion, I think that 238 could be hit, and then we could reject here and hit 235. So there's going to be a risk of us dipping a little bit lower. For MSTR, we have an inverse head and shoulders like structure that's developing. If we break past 395, we're looking for essentially 407 to 408. So I think that with this inverse head and shoulders forming, we could be pushing higher for the 400s. If we lose 381, we turn back down, but I think this is favoring the 400s for now. Might be a small push coming. We'll have to see if it could hold around those levels or not. For the IWM, we're just consolidating between 244 and 240. Might be a dip to 240 coming flat, and then we might just continue to consolidate. If we lose 240, we turn a bit more bearish, and if we break 244, we're bullish. Otherwise, it's just consolidating for now. For AMD, we're trying to look a little bit more bullish. We could be looking for 140 as our potential target. For coin, we could be trying to push higher. As long as we do not lose 290, we're looking for a push for 302.96 and eventually 310. So it could be a little bit more upside coming, believe it or not. For Amazon, we are in a nice uptrend right here. As long as we do not lose 205.94, we're looking for essentially a push back up to 212. So we could push higher for 212, so give this some time to develop. For Meta's on a very, very nice uptrend right over here. If we end up losing 570, we're going to be dipping lower, but as long as we're above this resistance, we're looking for a push for 580. I think Meta favors 580 for now. Microsoft, in my opinion, is on a nice uptrend here. As long as we hold above 420, we're looking for a push for essentially 426. If we lose 420, we dip lower, but this is so far looking like it has more upside potential. And last but not least, Google is just shuffling at 170. We need to break 172 to turn more bullish. Otherwise, it continues to shuffle. So my view of the market is this. I do anticipate a little bit more upside. We could try to push a little higher, closer to all-time highs. But then be careful, guys, because we're looking for a big reaction once this data comes out. Will we continue to rally to new all-time highs and break past 603 on SPY after this data comes out? Or will the data cause a little bit of a rug pull? So you want to be prepared for that. So just be ready for 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll see what kind of reaction we get. Anyways, I thank you all so much for listening. I'll see you guys in a couple of hours for another update. Until then, thank you for listening and peace out.